Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome to GX, and this is the blueprint. So we're actually giving them how to do this. This is the blueprint for the next Pakistan-India war. War fronts. All right. Well, I don't know. Pakistan does some fuckery in India, responds, and that's a war. Like it's been happening for decades now. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, I'm not gonna go on a rant. Otherwise, this video will be 2 hours long. So I'll try to say as minimum thing as I can. But I don't know. Is something new happen? Why this video now? I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Let's watch this one.
Since 1947, India and Pakistan have hardly been able to keep their hands off of each other. And no, we're not talking about the enjoyable way of laying your hands upon your partner, a lusty gesture of passionate love. Obviously. We are referring, of course, to the opposite of passionate love, and that is bitter enmity, sparked in part by their respective claims over the territory of Kashmir. An enmity which has erupted into 4 wars as well as numerous border skirmishes, attacks conducted by proxy, and surgical retaliations. The most recent bout of this endless South Asian rivalry took place in May of 2025, a short conflict which luckily de-escalated very quickly, with both Delhi and Islamabad claiming victory. Actually, we should say Rawalpindi there. While Islamabad is Pakistan's political capital, Rawalpindi is home to the Joint Staff Headquarters of the Pakistan Air Forces. The more you know. Right, so...
That is your answer in itself. Yeah. Who's the leader of Pakistan? If you have to question that, you have to question who to believe, right? And yeah, in one side, physical, real satellite evidence of India shooting down all the missiles, incoming missiles from Pakistan, while India blew up all the locations in all of the cities, military installations, airports. I guess who won? Who knows?
Delhi and Rawalpindi turned off the heat pretty quickly there, but what if the two rivals were to engage once again in a full-blown war? How would that play out? Well, if that question has kept you awake at night, you're in luck, as today we're going to explore some likely scenarios of how the next war might pan out with escalating degrees of intensity. These are the blueprints for the next Indo-Pakistani war. Fighter versus Lionheart. We would be willing to bet that the Joint Chiefs of Staff of both countries hold within their drawers some pretty precise blueprints or war plans for a range of potential conflict scenarios. They would not be earning their salaries otherwise, would they? But we also expect that they would not be happy for us to copy their homework, and we...
Well, one is a democracy who does do that, like America does, and another one is military state. But just like all of the military state, fill their coffers. That shit doesn't even work. That Chinese defense, it didn't work. So you really think they have plans for anything?
We don't really have the appetite for a daring infiltration mission within the heavily guarded military HQs of 2 nuclear powers. The retaliation would be bad. Therefore, we will have to base our scenario on publicly available resources such as strategy and policy papers, reports on the respective armed forces, personnel and equipment, accounts of precedent conflicts, as well as descriptions of recently conducted war games and military exercises. Are we claiming that the scenarios we propose are the most detailed, the most realistic, the most likely to occur? No, absolutely not, and do feel free to politely point out any misconceptions in the comments.
Should I go to comments? I don't think I should go to comments. I'm scared. All right. Look, man, one is the 4th biggest military, probably one of the 4 countries who has one of the top things, like... There are a lot of tech that only 4 countries in the world has. USA, China, Russia, and now India. There is no other country who's part of that club. India is part of that club, right? I'm not going to list here things from certain things that only 3 countries, India is part of it, like, what is it called? Like 3 ways to launching triads, nuclear triads. Now India also has a scramjet technology when it comes to BrahMos 2 cruise missiles and many other complete things. India has S-400, but not just that. French and Israel, which is basically American tech, made and helped indigenous Prithvi and Akash system, which is not just like S-400, but it's also like intercontinental ballistic missile stopping power from space. India has its own Iron Dome. Pakistan has none of this shit, right? India has way too many technology that is part of the top 4 countries. Pakistan doesn't. So there is no really comparison this versus this. This is like a featherweight fighting a UFC heavyweight champion. That's just stupid, basically.
comments as well as alternative scenarios that you might have concocted. But before we even start concocting a blueprint for a hypothetical future war, let's take a look at what India and Pakistan would each bring to the fight. According to sources such as the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, the International Centre for Sustainability, and the International Institute for Strategic Studies, based on sheer numbers alone, India easily appears as the larger, stronger, richer power. As of 2025, India can field more than 1.4 million active duty personnel, of which the vast majority, 1.2 million, serve in the land army. By comparison, Pakistani forces amount to 660,000 active duty personnel, with 560,000 serving on land. So, both sides can deploy a hell of a lot of people.
Okay, that's more impressive to me, the Pakistan number, because it's nearly half. India has 1.4 billion people. Pakistan doesn't even have close to it. It's like 150 million or something, tenth of them. Most of the Pakistanis Muslim. There are more Muslims in India than the entire population of Pakistan, by the way. You know those people who cry, oh, Pakistan's Muslim country, so this is like a religious war. Yeah, there are more Muslims in India than it's in Pakistan, by the way. 200 million in India.
Boots on the ground, but clearly India does have the numerical advantage. We expect that those boots would rather sit comfortably within some sort of armored vehicle, rather than actually treading the ground. And when we look at the respective fleet of vehicles, the disparity is not as marked. When combining main battle tanks, armored personnel carriers, infantry fighting vehicles, and self-propelled artillery, on the Indian side we have a total of over 7,100 tracked or wheeled things that can deal out plenty of serious boo-boos and ouchies. Pakistan, while employing less than half of India's soldiers, could field a little more than 6,600 of those metal beasts. We're not going to bore you with more detailed numbers, but...
Yeah, Russia had the numbers as well. Look how that's panning out. How many of those Pakistan thing works? India is a democracy. There are rules and regulations. Even with all the bureaucracy and corruption, there are rules and regulations that demands Indian military check things and maintain things. India usually looks to the West on how to do things. India does a lot of exercises with the USA and other Western countries. India is a different country. Pakistan's air defense didn't work. So how are these things going to work?
Let's say that Delhi takes the lead in main battle tanks with a difference of more than 1,200 compared to Rawalpindi. But the latter has absolute dominance when it comes to self-propelled artillery, 552 against 100. Not all shooty things come with wheels and tracks, of course. Some artillery batteries are towed, while others fire rockets and missiles from a reasonably safe distance away from the battlefield. And in this category, India is once more at the top, boasting a 2-to-1 ratio compared to Pakistan in towed and rocket artillery. Next, let's lift our gaze to the skies in search of fixed-wing contraptions which can break the barrier of sound, as well as the enemy's resistance. Sounds like a marketing campaign. The Mavericks and Icemen in the Indian Air Force can show off their Top Gun skills at the controls of 6...
I think here Pakistan's going to take the number because of their 5th gen. I think it's 5th gen. But it's a Chinese plane that they give to Pakistan, but they themselves don't use it. Export variant. I don't know what that means. But I think J-10C, that is better than anything India has. Right? Yeah, so India has the best plane India has is... the name is... I forgot. The one that shot down. French one. That's the best one they have. And the heavyweight one is Sukhoi 30 Mark something, which is twin engine one. India is lacking in that. India's trying to speed that up, right? But it will take few years.
663 fighters and ground attack craft, including Russian Sukhoi Su-30 MKIs, French Rafales, and the locally made TS Mark II. By 2027, Indian pilots may also be able to fly an AMCA, or Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, a locally developed and produced 5th-generation stealth fighter. These Knights in the Sky will be supported by 203 logistics planes and 7 surveillance, reconnaissance, and early warning craft. And by the way, you'll be happy to know that in 2024, the Bollywood industry released their own answer to Top Gun. Yay! I'm definitely going to watch that. It's called Fighter, and it features a military confrontation with Pakistan.
They did, didn't they? Oh! This is like a Netflix movie, so like there are a million of them, so most people like just goes over it, like, oh, was that a movie? Oh yeah, they did.
Pakistan, because of course it does. But reviews, they're not flattering. with one reading. The need to wrap jingoism and commercial thrills into one neat package results in one ludicrous sequence after another. Racy musical interludes are haphazardly inserted throughout. At one point, a flight mission awkwardly cuts to an out-of-place daydream in which the two scantily clad stars groove to a sizzling tune in some distant seaside resort. What is happening in that movie? Bollywood, though.
Look, man, Bollywood was okay 20 years ago. Now, don't watch it. By the way, if you think that shit like RRR and all that, that's not Bollywood, by the way. Those are like more of southern movies, which are like decent. That's how things have gotten. Bollywood sucks now. Very few movies, like maybe one every 5-6 years is going to be good. Yeah, I think they just gave up. They're just like, fuck it. They got so rich that they're just investing in everything else. Even the top stars are not making movies anymore. Weird thing, I don't know. But yeah, shit like that. And even back then, like, probably it's some Hollywood ripoff or something, right? Some movies are always kinda like that. Inspiration. Yeah. Bollywood was never at that level.
It was beaten to the punch by the Pakistani film industry, or Lollywood as it is known. The 2019 production, Sherdil, or Lionheart in Urdu, features heroic Pakistan Air Force pilots engaging in dogfights against, wait for it, the Indian Air Force, yes! Apparently this production is less gung-ho when compared to Fighter, and there is even a subplot in which the protagonist, Harris, befriends an Indian pilot before shooting him down. Now look, this isn't a movie review channel, so let's just move on. It is important, though, in acknowledging how the simmering enmity between the two countries permeates their popular culture, and the release
There's a recent movie. I forgot the name. Fuck. Why am I forgetting the names? Whatever. There's a literal recent movies which is based on Pakistani town and terrorism from it. And Pakistan got pissed off. This is not true. Our town is not like that. We're going to make a movie of our own. That their minister said that. Like, okay. Imagine minister talking about some entertainment. That's just weird shit. But yeah, this shit is happening now.
Military action movies by Bollywood and Lollywood seems to coincide with periods of heightened tension. No surprises there. But look, back to our flying friend Harris. Nowadays, you would find him flying one of the 417 fighters with the Pakistan Air Force, mainly F-16s, JF-17s, and JC-10s, procured from the US and China.
Yeah. F-16s are not equal to Sukhoi 30s, I think, because F-16s are like, like multi-purpose type, right? It's not like F-15. Sukhoi 30s are supposed to be twin jet powerhouses. But F-16 is American, so like, okay, how maintained they are, how modern they are, but still F-16s are heavyweight. JC-10s, these are like the latest one from China, also good, right? I don't know, these were used to shoot down Rafales. So their Air Force has like decent technology compared to India. I mean, India is like usually relies on like Russian things, and Russian things have been sucking recently. Now they look towards, like Europe with Rafales, right? In future, things might change. They're making their indigenous thing. Who knows how that's going to be, AMCA, if that's going to be good or not. Or they just might buy something European in the future, or Japanese or something. Then it might be equal or better. Right now, yeah, Pakistan has Chinese things, which is just better.
Pakistani wings are therefore at a numerical disadvantage compared to their rivals, although they can deploy 22 surveillance, reconnaissance, and early warning craft, more than 3 times India's contingent. Islamabad's high flyers are in the minority.
Yeah, but do they have fuel for that? They're begging money for international court. Do they have money for that? Yeah, it's all good to have all those aircraft. Do you have fuel for that?
Also, when it comes to the rotary wing department, that's choppers to you and me. Here, India can boast an advantage of 3.5 to 1. But not all that flies carries a pilot. Much like most militaries in the world, the South Asian powers have heavily invested in the import and local development of surveillance and attack drones. Their overall numbers remain a mystery, however. Recent reports by the BBC and Observer Research Foundation indicate that Pakistan has the numerical advantage with a fleet exceeding 1,000 units. The same sources suggest that India's drone fleet, by comparison, is rather modest, with fewer than 200 unmanned vehicles, of which the vast majority are used for surveillance purposes only. The force may be beefed up by a shipment of 31 MQ-9B Predator drones, plus up to 50 further combat UAVs by 2028, as announced in July 2025 by Air Commodore Sandeep Singh. But the Indian military may control a much higher number of drones. According to Reuters and Defense News, the armed forces has procured at least 2,000 drones in various roles back in 2022, which may already be operational. While drone supremacy is open to discussion, India certainly has the numbers in air defense weapon systems, with more than 3,200 anti-aircraft guns in service to
India also has Apache helicopters and like American helicopters. They procured that for Himalayas, basically against China, not against Pakistan. See, the thing is, like, numbers are meaningless. It's strategy. What is it for? So when it comes to India, Pakistan, helicopters are not going to be much of a thing. When it comes to Himalayas against China, that's going to help. When against Pakistan, helicopters not going to be a thing. So I don't know. Helicopter doesn't matter. Drones, like which drones are they? Even I don't know. I'm sure it's like most of the drones are like Reaper type drones and not like Iranian drone type things. But who knows?
Where missile batteries, almost twice as many as Pakistan. The most crushing difference between these militaries can be observed in their naval forces. The Pakistani Navy sails 11 frigates and 5 conventional submarines, which are good enough to patrol their coasts and defend their territorial waters. But the Indian Navy can deploy some serious power projection with its 29 surface vessels, which includes 2 aircraft carriers and 18 submarines. 2 of those, by the way, are nuclear-powered and equipped with ballistic missiles. The only domain in which the 2 powers are evenly matched is the nuclear one. Delhi has the finger on the button to launch a total of 172 nuclear warheads, and Rawalpindi 170.
Yeah, but that's just nuclear warheads. What about the vessel? My man, India has Agni 5, proper ICBM. Pakistan does not. India has a submarine, nuclear-powered submarine. Pakistan does not. This is not even a competition.
Today we're going to focus our scenarios on conventional warfare, but it is important to point out the balance of power here, with both countries quite able to reduce the opponent to a South Asian installment of the Fallout franchise. But besides nukes, what is the reason for the imbalance in all other armed forces? And
By the way, India can deflect most of the incoming nukes because of its Iron Dome. Let's say 10 are launched, at least 9 of them, if not all 10 of them, can be shot down with the technology India has against Pakistan. Pakistan doesn't. 1 or 2 cities of India might explode. India will make sure no city of Pakistan is left around. So it's not competition. It's not even equal.
Is, well, obviously money. Keeping up with the neighbors. According to data from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, back in 1960, the military expenditure of the 2 countries was not too far apart. India committed 2% of its GDP, equivalent to $3.3 billion as of today's value, while Pakistan wrote checks for almost $600 million, or 4.3% of its GDP. Over time, military expenditure has progressively increased for both powers, and actually Pakistan consistently committed a higher percentage of their GDP to the defense budget compared to India.
No shit.
But the key factor here is that India is simply the larger economy, and its rise in the past decades has been meteoric. As of 2024, the Indian Armed Forces received funding to the tune of $83.6 billion, which is more than France spends on defense and only a hair below what the UK spends. And more to the point, it's 10 times the Pakistani military expenditure. The 2 countries combined therefore dedicate almost...
Right now is I think about 140 or 130 billion after the recent exchange with Pakistan. So it's around 130, 140 billion.
Almost $100 billion to their defense budgets, much of which go into buying a vast catalogue of misery-dispensing toys. Both Delhi and Islamabad can rely on international partners who are more than willing to sell their wares. Up to 2013, 76% of India's defense imports came from Moscow. Russia still remains the biggest vendor, although the ratio has declined to 36% in recent years. France, Israel, the US, and UK complete.
This is the 2 biggest one. France is one of the biggest one because it's not just about Rafales, by the way. Like I said, Akash system, which is the anti-defense system, is joint developed with France and Israel, as far as I know. So it's very Western. Israel basically just been United States helped, right? Israel is part of it because of their Iron Dome. So it's a really good system. And that was used against Pakistani attacks. It wasn't just S-400, right? So S-400 alongside with this Israeli-France joint-made, indigenous-made system were used. That's how 99% of the missiles were shot down. So, and United States is basically Apache aircraft, Predator drones. India was about to buy F-35 as well, but because of the recent friction with Trump and whatever the thing was happening with F-35, like, oh, by the way, US can just shut down whatever the shit that was. I think that talk fell apart. But yeah, I don't know. UK, what do we buy from UK? I don't know that. Could be some ship-related things.
The top 5 of India's chief military suppliers. On the other hand, Pakistan has a solid relationship with American defense industries, but its key partner and supplier is China, an all-weather strategic ally since 1962. And that's all well and good, but what if their international partners are unable or unwilling to fulfill their shipments? In that case, both powers can rely on a local armament sector. India's defense industrial base is one of the largest in the region and is driven by state-owned enterprises, government research institutes, and a generous helping of a growing private sector. In the fiscal year 2023 to 24, the value of domestic arms...
Third or the fourth richest man on the planet is Adani. He has a big hand in military things in India. Fourth or the fifth, I don't even know. Another richest man on the planet is Ambani. He also has like Jio. That's Jio's big thing in India. Basically, when you see 2016 ahead, you see this massive rise in internet. That's basically India, and that's basically because of Jio, Mukesh Ambani. So, they have real hand in the... Basically, India is following US mentality, or private sector, how US works, how capitalism works. This is where the growth is coming from.
Arms production equated some $17 billion, a more than 170% increase compared to the previous decade. This production has materialized as missiles and air defense systems, armored vehicles, drones, naval vessels. Very soon, India will release the first prototype of its indigenous fifth-generation stealth fighter. Across the border, Pakistan's industrial base is mainly concentrated in the government's hands and is relatively strong in production of small arms, armored vehicles, drones, and licensed copies of Chinese fighter jets. While Pakistan does not publish official figures on their domestic production, it is safe to assume that the overall output is smaller compared to India's, both in terms of quantity and variety of weapon systems. Moreover, local industrial complexes such as Pakistani ordnance factories or Pakistan Aeronautical Complex are heavily dependent on the import of components and spare parts. So, if the two rivals were to suddenly be ghosted by their international buddies, India would be overall in a better position to sustain a prolonged conventional war.
Modi's past few years has a movement, Make in India. And at the time, I didn't realize it. Like, what's the fuck? Like, okay, I guess he's just saying increase the business. But it had a military significance behind it. At the time, I didn't realize it. Over time, I'm realizing how genius that is. And how the conflicts rose after that. When Modi said that, there were no conflicts, like no major one. After that, Russia thing started, Middle Eastern thing started, India, Pakistan, and American thing are starting now. So this shit makes sense. Doesn't matter if it's good or if it's, If you make your own thing, you automatically have advantage over everyone else. You can cut supplies of a country and you just paralyze them. But if you make your own shit, you can just do it, you can just be self-reliant. Making your own thing matters. And what India does, India is a capitalistic mentality. So India doesn't make things just by them. Oh, I'm going to make this from scratch. No, India gets help from United States, France, indirectly United States, sometimes direct, sometimes indirect, Israel, France, UK, and many other like NATO European countries. India gets help from that in their research, and then they make indigenous things. Even from Russia, the Russian thing works, right? And India is building from that. India is not starting from scratch. People are like, oh, India can't make good shit. Yeah, but India is not making everything on their own. They're getting help. So people, when they think like fifth generation plane is not going to be that good, India can't just make it. Yeah, but India is not just making it. India is getting help from somebody else. So who knows what that plane is going to be, but we'll see, I guess.
Now, it's not a given that the more numerous, better funded, better equipped force should immediately and easily have the upper hand against a smaller, conventional military with less money in the bank. Just ask Vladimir Putin, whose army is currently well over 1,400 days into the 3-day special military operation against Ukraine. The same concept applies to at least some of the previous Indo-Pakistani conflicts in which Rawalpindi was able to hold its own, at least tactically, before international arbitration reinstated the status quo ante bellum.
The fuck you talking about, man? Every single conflict, Pakistan instigated something, India fought back and pushed them all the way deep inside Pakistan and went back. India never wanted to conquer Pakistan. The way geography works is not like Russia and Ukraine. If anything, it's opposite. The way India's geography is very hard to invade in India from Pakistani side, especially from Chinese side. And India can hold its own very easily, concentrated in certain region. It's not hard to conquer Pakistan. Every 3 to 4 conflicts, every single time India kicked their ass and went all the way inside, all the way to Islamabad and came back. Every time Pakistan does some shit, India responds this way and conflict gets over. Right? And this is not some, he said, she said, or fake news. This is a physical proof that, physical news out there, physical evidence out there. You can just look up this shit happened with evidence. This is not just some arma footage like Pakistan says. This is a proper evidence-based things.
The big exception was the War of 1971, in which a decisive Indian victory brought about the independence of Bangladesh, formerly known as East Pakistan. Otherwise, Indo-Pakistani conflicts revolved around the disputed Kashmir region and were initiated by Islamabad's proxy actors. These included tribal militias, Islamist groups, or other irregular forces which launched actions beyond the line of control, the de facto border bisecting Kashmir. In the 1947, 1965, and 1999 conflicts, India responded to Pakistan's actions by launching large operations with its conventional forces, either in Kashmir, Punjab, and/or Rajasthan. Delhi's forces were able to make significant gains on several occasions, but were mostly held back from achieving a decisive victory. In any case, the two powers' international partners invariably stepped in to broker.
Yeah, because India never wanted to full-blown achieve victory and crush Pakistan. In recent conflicts, Rafale was shot down because they didn't do what America did and take out military radars and military installation before achieving air superiority. India was just trying to attack terrorist cells without touching Pakistani radars and things. And they're like, we shot down Rafale. Oh, holy shit. Oh, here's a medal. India's hands were tied down. This is one of the problems with India. India doesn't go too aggressive. Right? If somebody aggressive comes and says, fuck it, attack all with anti-radiation missiles, destroy all the radars and SAM sites, Pakistan can't do shit. India doesn't do that. India is very pacifist, right? India doesn't try to completely crush the enemy. They do that, they do make a point and come back. This has been repeating for a long time. They didn't even attack Pakistan until very recently, while Pakistan was constantly funding terrorist cells to blow up shit in India for years. All the way to 2008, 2009 Mumbai attack, India didn't respond until recently, and until this year, at this scale. Now Modi is like, you know what, this is enough. Any other country would have been like, fuck it, I'm tired. But it took this long time to India to say, we are tired. So India is not being aggressive. This is the problem.
A ceasefire and return to the line of control. After the late 1990s, following Pakistan's emergence as a nuclear power, India preferred not to escalate matters with large conventional offensives. Thus, conflicts and crises in the 21st century largely consisted of episodic border skirmishes or militant attacks followed by Indian surgical strikes while Pakistan actively defended its own airspace. In all cases, it didn't take long before international pressure forced the warring parties to keep it down and return to their erstwhile state of being. Let's take that last point as an inspiration for our first blueprint of a future Indo-Pakistani conflict. The short war scenario. So, this is it. The part of the video where, armed with our new knowledge of Indian and Pakistani capabilities, we can start sketching out all the ways a future war may realistically play out. These will rise in intensity as the video goes on, so our opening one here will be closer to the last actual conflict back in spring of last year, 2025. The scenario kicks off with that old chestnut, a terrorist attack on Indian soil by a militant group backed by Pakistan. Islamabad and Rawalpindi may deny their involvement in or even knowledge of the attack, but India's likely reaction will be to grab the scalpel and launch a signature surgical strike. This may involve the use of missiles, the Air Force, drones, or all of the above. Now, in May of 2025, the Pakistan Air Force performed rather well compared to their Indian counterparts, shooting down up to 5 fighter jets and 1 UAV. In a future engagement, Pakistan may be able to negate, once again, India's air superiority.
Again, India wasn't attacking air defenses. If India did proper attack, like let's attack Pakistan's military, no Rafales would have been shot down. India didn't attack Pakistan military, India attacked terrorist cells. This is a crucial detail. I'm not saying, India is good. That's not how military things work. It doesn't make sense. There is no way the tech that India has and Pakistan has, Pakistan can shoot down 5 the Rafale like that. Nobody sucks that bad. I'm not even saying, Indians are good or anything. No, I'm not saying that. Indians are, let's just say, below average. Even then, 5 Rafales can't be shot down. Their hands were tied down. In future, it's not going to be the case. This time Modi might be too aggressive. Modi might be like, let's attack anti-defenses and then achieve superiority and then destroy a lot of things. That would be very different scenarios. Pretty one-sided scenario.
Taking advantage of their larger fleet of surveillance, recon, and early warning craft. If the next air battle were to take place in the mid-2030s, the Indian Air Force might be able to deploy in numbers the 5th-generation stealth fighter we mentioned earlier. This new piece of kit might give them the edge in the skies unless Pakistani local arms programs or their Chinese suppliers are able to keep up with more advanced systems. And there's also the drone conundrum. The key question is, will India be actually able to rely on those 2,000 procured drones referenced by Reuters, or will its fleet be limited to a couple of hundred units, mostly in surveillance roles? The number and quality of UAVs will influence which side will rule the skies. While drones are clearly outgunned and outperformed by manned craft, they can deal enormous damage against radar installations and air defenses on the ground. In any case, whatever the tech or tactics employed in this scenario, the most likely outcome is that it will fizzle out within a matter of days. After the two countries have exchanged missile strikes, perhaps artillery and small arms fire across their official borders on the line of control, their international partners step in. The presidents of the US, France, and Russia, the Prime Minister of the UK, and the General Secretary of the UN would all slide into Delhi and Istanbul's DMs, with a consistent message: enough. We would expect the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party to deliver two more complex messages, one addressed to India to the effect of,
"Don't forget that Pakistan is our friend, and you really can't afford a concurrent border crisis with another nuclear power, now can you?"
and one aimed at Pakistan.
Again, I'm not so sure about that. They didn't do the last time. They would not enter like that. Because again, you don't want to risk a direct conflict against a nuclear nation when conflict is not with you. They are not going to risk a nuclear fight with India for Pakistan. This is why last time they were just like, they weren't even engaging. China didn't even say anything, by the way, for a long time. There were no statements out. So I think people are like overestimating how much China would come to the rescue. And as far as other countries, they were back and forth, but India didn't really listen, right? India's powerful enough, they can say, everybody mind your business. Nobody's going to go out on a limb and threaten India for Pakistan. That's the case with everyone. That's how geopolitics works. Look at Ukraine-Russia thing. Nobody will be able to do shit against Russia because nobody's point blank going to threaten Russia for Ukraine.
To the tune of,
"Mate, we are working so hard on that China-Pakistan economic corridor infrastructure project, which is going to make all of us a load of cash. You can't really afford to go to war and jeopardize that project now, can you?"
So, yes, about that corridor, or CPEC. In very simplistic terms, it's an infrastructural project aimed at linking China with the Middle East via Pakistan. It's a part of Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative, and its importance is massive. A secure corridor will enable China to safely and reliably trade with the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. Moreover, it will guarantee consistent energy imports from Middle Eastern markets into China. Delhi and Rawalpindi may grumble for a day or two at the interference of those cocks in Beijing and elsewhere, but eventually they will concede that they are right. In fact, it's not even in their own interest to escalate matters, lest fingers twitch while hovering.
Again, India never escalates. Look at the history. Again, I'm not saying I'm an Indian, so I'm saying all this shit. You know me. I say shit all the time. I'm not nationalist, right? I don't believe in nationalism. I'm a patriot. No, I don't believe in nationalism. There are many shit that India suffers with. Corruption is the biggest of them. India should be much stronger than it is right now. So I'm not saying, we India. No. We are much weaker than we should be. Against China, we are basically fucked. That's where we are. But India never instigates at that level. There's a reason why recent conflict stopped. Because India never wanted to escalate. Look at the conflict. Pakistan does something, India attacks. India says, if you don't do anything, conflict is over. Pakistan attacks, India attacks again. Until by the end, India just blew up their airports left and right. And again, India said, we are not going to do anything unless you do something. This time, Trump intervened, told Islamabad to shut the fuck up, and conflict over. Right? India was responding. That was their whole statement. We are responding. We are not attacking. Don't do some shit, we won't respond. We are not interested in conflict. We are the fastest growing large economy. Why the fuck would we want a war? We like doing business. Peace is good for that.
Over a nuclear button. Speaking of which, both India and Pakistan have adopted an overall nuclear doctrine defined as Minimum Credible Deterrence, or MCD. This is a tad less extreme than the good old mutually assured destruction. According to MCD, a country will maintain the minimum amount of nuclear strike capabilities to deter a rival power from deploying their own nukes. But the two powers have different interpretations of MCD. India has espoused a no first use policy, indicating that they would nuke an enemy into oblivion only if attacked first by an atomic strike. On the other hand, Pakistan has adopted a posture defined as full spectrum deterrence, or FSD. This means that Pakistan is ready to launch a first nuclear strike if its territorial integrity is threatened by conventional forces. We are not talking about a full-scale annihilation of enemy cities and civilian targets, mind you. Actually, FSD calls for the use of low-yield tactical nukes against invading columns, which is still intense, as even the launch of a single tactical weapon may escalate into an all-out nuclear exchange. So, the likelihood...
Yeah, this is a bluff BS that didn't work last time, because they know they don't have the technology to attack India and get fucked, right? Like I said, India has much better defenses, and India can attack back. Pakistan has no defenses. And not to mention other countries. If Pakistan use nukes, America, all of the Russia, most of the Europe, they'll be like, fuck you, why did you use nuke? You just crossed the line that nobody did since World War II. We are gonna nuke you now. That's a risk Pakistan can take, right? Mutual destruction has become such a large thing, and so many countries now have nuke. The nukes are basically useless. Nobody's gonna use nukes. So conflicts will happen, nobody will use nukes, so nukes are basically useless.
The end of this scenario is that cooler heads will prevail, conference centers will be booked, and an agreement to return to the status quo will be signed. But now let's consider a second blueprint, one in which the Indian chiefs of staff are somehow aware that their Pakistani colleagues may be somewhat reluctant to immediately fire those tactical nukes. Would India risk a land invasion of their rival? The
What?
cold start scenario.
Okay, in modern time with modern military, land invasions are very rare. India would just blow the shit out of Pakistani things with missiles left and right. Even on the ballistic missiles if need be, non-nuclear ballistic missiles.
And this takes us to our second blueprint, which we'll call the cold start scenario. It's right there in the title of this section. This is based on an Indian military doctrine, cold start, developed in the mid-2000s and never formally acknowledged by Delhi. Up to that point, the Indian Armed Forces stuck to the rather ambitious playbook of the Sondage doctrine. We'll get to that later, but for the moment, all we need to know is that these plans envision the use of 10 army corps, which is up to 450,000 personnel, to launch an invasion of Pakistan. The Sondage plans came into question in 1998 after Pakistan conducted its first successful nuclear tests. They were further proven obsolete by Operation Parakram in 2001 and 2002, a massive mobilization conducted by Indian Armed Forces. Parakram was a response to the December 13th, 2001 terror attack perpetrated by the Pakistani militant faction Jaish-e-Mohammed against the parliament in Delhi. This operation's outcome was far from desirable. It took 27 days to mobilize.
Yeah, if you notice a trend in this video, that Pakistan did some shit and India responded. So again, people who like keyboarding in this video, I'm not saying it, he's saying it. Every evidence is saying it. India doesn't want to do war because it's bad for fucking business, right? India's trying to be industrial hub. Most of the Japanese Suzuki cars are made in India now. That wasn't the case before. Most of the Japanese cars are made in India now. Again, that wasn't the case before. Same with a lot of European cars and European. This is just an example. India's trying to become a hub. A lot of Apple phones are being made in India now. India doesn't want to do war. It's always the Pakistan who somehow wants Kashmir, even though they can't even run their own fucking country. Somehow they're gonna run Kashmir. After the recent changes in Kashmir, the economy of Kashmir has gone up by 10 times. Ask any Kashmiri, do you really want to go back to being poor? No, nobody cares about religion. Nobody cares about if I want to be Pakistan. This is a very old mentality. Oh, because of religion, I want to be Pakistani. Who cares? No one cares about religion. They care if they have iPhone or not. You know what? I'll do the second part later because it's gone about 40 minutes. If you like my next one, subscribe and I'll see you next time.